Hey guys, Drew here, GODZ Manufacturing, bringing you another installation video today on our MegaCab Molle panel. This is a new product for us. It's designed for the 2010 plus Ram 3500 MegaCab trucks. We have two different versions. So we have a full Molle panel that does not have anything other than a continuous Molle pattern for a 4-foot width, and it's about 16 inches tall. We also have a secondary version here that's mostly Molle, but you'll see we're missing some of that grid pattern. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of space behind the seat in the MegaCab trucks. So we designed a version that allows you to support an ARB dual compressor and the switch for it. Run that behind your seat on the passenger side of the truck so it stays out of the dust, out of the elements, much better than an engine bay mount. And if you guys drive a Cummins truck, you'll know that there's no space to mount a compressor inside the engine bay anyway. So we came up with this solution, and we're going to show you how to install these today. Now that we talked about the two different configurations of the GODZ Manufacturing MegaCab Molle panel, we can actually start the install. So I'm sitting in the back of the MegaCab. This is in Grant's 4th gen. We've already put one in my 5th gen. The installation is going to be the exact same. So any truck that is 2010 plus in that MegaCab configuration, you're going to follow these steps. So once you get your seats folded flat, we need to identify these little hooks. I guess they're for groceries or whatever else, so stuff is not sliding around while you're driving. But they fold in, they fold out, but they lock out in this position. So what we need to do is pull these out into this position, and we're going to be removing these plastic hooks. So to do that, we're either going to use a small flathead screwdriver or a small pick tool if you have one. And all we need to do is reach in the top here, and there's just a little tab that we have to release. It's this guy right here. All we're doing is just putting pressure downward on it so it releases from the catch up here. So we'll do that, release that. I'll show you one more time, because once it locks back in, it locks back in. Take that, just use your pick tool or your flathead, get it to release, and it comes right down. So fold that out of the way, and then you're going to grab a T25 Torx bit, locate the screw that's inside of this plastic clip here, and then we are simply going to take this out. These are not super tight. We have seen a little bit of surface rust on these screws before, but it should not be anything that would prevent that screw from coming out. Once the screw comes out with that T25, you're simply just going to take this, pull it out, and there's going to be a little metal clip here left in the wall. We're going to leave that installed. We're going to utilize these clips right here to install the MegaCab Molle panel and keep it secure to this back wall. So the hook I just showed you guys how to remove here, this guy was from the center. We need to remove two more. There's going to be one here on the driver's side. There's going to be one more on the passenger side. These guys right here are going to be your tie-in points for car seats for the kiddos. These can stay installed just as they are. If you do need access to them for car seats, these two outer ones can be flipped down. This will not interfere with the MegaCab Molle panel. However, if you need to use this middle one, you'll need to take this little cap down, and then you'll just pull it to the side and it'll snap right out. That way you have access to this, and then at a later time you can just reinstall this cap if you need to. But for right now, we don't have kids. We're going to try to keep it that way, so I'm going to shut all those caps. Go ahead and take these remaining two off, and then we'll talk about getting the panel in next. All right, this is an optional step, but this is a super duper life hack pro tip right here. So we've got these nice trucks. You paid a bunch of money from Dodge to get the blackout package. So having this, faded Delmonico that looks more pink than anything, that's just not acceptable. So we're gonna paint back here. This is an optional step. Again, you don't have to do this, and this is probably overkill for most of you. But in order to do this effectively, we wanna get this little clip out, which is held in with some spring tension. But pro tip here, you're going to take that same hook you just removed, you're going to get that started into your clip, just get it lined up there, get a couple turns in there, not many, I didn't grab it that time, couple turns into the clip. You can feel it's holding on. We're basically going to use this whole hook to pull that clip right out of the back wall. And then you can just take that off by hand. I'm going to go paint these black, and I'm going to paint this little section black here as well, just so it tidies everything up. Alright, so we left off with the extra credit portion of this video. We did the extra credit, we took the clips out, we painted everything. Getting a little lightheaded inside of here, so make sure you let the truck air out before you put your kids or wife in it, because they're going to be mad if you do this step. But at this point, we need to get these clips reinstalled. So I'm going to use that pick tool we used earlier and just put it through the hole here on the clip itself. That way I don't drop it anywhere that shouldn't be. And then we just want to locate this long slot that's on the back wall. You might have to lift up on the carpet a little bit to do that. And then we're just going to take that and push it into place like so. We'll repeat that process 2 more times, and then we'll talk about getting the panel into the floor next. All right, so still sitting inside the cab. I had Grant hand me the panel itself, and I've laid it down so the bends are facing up towards the roof of the truck. So we've got the big bend down here, we've got the little flange at the top. The big bend at the bottom is to get around this hump here, which is the motor and stuff for the rear sliding window. And then this flange at the top just provides a more finished look, in addition to adding some rigidity to this all aluminum panel. So what we need to do is we need to just slide this back quickly. There are 4 slots towards the back wall on the floor of your MegaCab. When you put the seats down, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see them. We're doing this inside of a truck that has 5% window tint. We're using a hood light, so we're trying to give you the best visuals possible, but nonetheless, you're gonna see what we're talking about. So what I need to do at this point, there are 4 corresponding tabs on the bottom of the panel that we produce, and I just need to get those lined up and kind of over the general spot. And this truck has a very similar fitment to mine, but we did one about a week ago, and the panel just dropped right in. We've noticed that there are some variants in these middle 2 slots right here, and it takes a little bit of persuasion to get the panel to drop in. This floor is just a plastic back here, so it's a little soft. So what we need to do is just take the panel, get it lined up over said slots, and then I'm going to take a microfiber cloth, put it on the top powder coated edge, and then a 3-pound dead blow hammer, and I'm just going to give this a couple of taps until those tongues from the panel itself seat into the floor. All right, so you hear that tone change finally dropped in. You don't have to hit this super hard. Make sure you're hitting it as straight down as possible. We don't want to put any bends or anything in the panel, although this is 1/8" aluminum. It's strong stuff. We don't really have to worry about it too much. But once we get that fully seated into the floor, I'll just give it one more tap there, make sure it's good, and then I'll pull my cloth away. So at this point, the panel is in. You can kind of see how it's going to fit here in its final form. We need to rock it back though so we can get some hardware going, and this is going to take a little bit of talent. So using the provided screws and spacer, you're going to go ahead and put a washer on that screw, put it through the mounting hole, put a spacer on top, just gently let that sit there. The weight of the spacer will hold the screw in place. Do that over here. Again, just kind of let it sit in place. And then one more time here on the far side as well. And then what we need to do is just rock this up into location. And what we want to do is use a number 2 Phillips here, and we want to get these started into those metal clips that we were looking at earlier, but we want to leave it loose because we've got to get all 3 started at one time. So you can kind of pull the panel here and get everything where it needs to be. And I'll start these final 2 screws, and then we can go back and tighten all of them. So we've got all 3 of these started. It took a little bit of finesse, just be patient with it. You want to make sure you preload the spacers on all of the screws before you start any of them. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pull this back enough to get it into location. But once we've got it where we need it, we can just take that number 2 Phillips and start to tighten our panel to the back wall here. And this really just doesn't require any torque. You're only getting this hand tight. And once it is hand tight, you're done with your install. So I've got all 3 of these tight in place. Go back and just check these 2 I did first. Now that all of them are tight. And at that point, this whole panel is installed. You can see it clears those car seat mounts we talked about earlier, and it provides a rock solid connection to this back wall, staying low profile so it doesn't interfere with the seat. And it still allows for your cubbies to be mounted, or I'm sorry, fully opened as well. That way, if you have stuff that you store back here, as you should, you still have full access to get to those cubbies. Now, one note is if you do have the compressor version, the compressor will sit here, so you're going to have interference opening this passenger side door. But we opted to put it on the passenger side because in a lot of these trucks, you have a factory subwoofer here and very, very little storage space. So we figured that was going to be the best compromise, giving you still full access to that driver's side. But at this point, the installation of your MegaCab Molle panel is done. Clean up your tools, go get your Titan straps, your Molle bags, whatever else you feel like putting on here, get it loaded up, and you're good to go.